Hi, welcome to Business Builders. On this episode, we're talking about taking equity. So, we've been speaking a lot about buying businesses or buying into businesses, but when you want to acquire equity in something like that, you need to actually work out how do you attract those businesses towards you. So, what I wanted to kind of touch on in this episode was how to view your kind of asset base as a portfolio, and also then how do you attract those type of customers to come towards you. So if you're looking to acquire, what are the methods? How do you put yourself out there? So I thought it would be a great episode as part of this series to consider how do we first view a portfolio and then attract them to us if we're looking for investment. You want to kick us off, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really good episode because it ties into the last one we were talking about, when we were saying about scaling a company and looking for investors. This is more about, us being investors, or you being investors and taking equity in the company. And I've had, a little bit of experience with it in the past, mainly being kind of bartering the deals, because of where we really focus on the startups and scale up companies, or more businesses that are looking to scale. And sometimes, they don't have the marketing spend, the marketing budget, but they want to get there quickly, they want to get there with pace, and the only thing they can do is actually give away equity in the business. Now, I quite like that as a strategy. Like, I know some people are adverse to it because essentially you could be working for free, but ultimately, like, what our values are about, and one of our key values is grow together. So if we help your business grow, we grow, so it's simple. And that's what I want to do. Like, if I've got a business that I'm trying to market, I've got a vested interest in helping them grow. So if I actually have equity in a business, it even gives me that little bit more of a motivation to go out and do it.
To build up. You have interest, so see when you buy equity like that, effectively you're buying it with your skill. What do you do with it? Do you get the business evaluated? So this is the value of the business. So for me to give you, let's say, 12 months marketing at, £4,000 a month, that would equate to, £48,000. So that would buy me 50% of the company. Or do you allow them to suggest, like, we would maybe give you 5, 10, 15%? Like, how do you normally work out what's fair?
So it's absolutely, there's a valuation on it. So they've generally had the kind of valuation of the company anyway. I don't work 100% for free. I wouldn't give 100%.
So it's kind of like a blended rate.
Yeah, so it's a blended. So I kind of say, like, we are taking some sort of money, so they might get put on some sort of lower rate, or I work in different packages. They might have a smaller package, but they're actually like the Accelerate package. But within there, it's like you are worth there. So basically, one of the ones, I think it was a £50,000 deal. We took £25,000 cash, but £25,000
in equity.
Equity.
It's good way of doing it.
But the £25,000 in equity, if that company goes, it could be, 2 million, $1 million, that like that.
Aye, to get it as well.
So, and once these shares are yours, they're yours. Nobody can take them off you. Once you're like, even, if there's fallouts within businesses, you're still the shareholder of the business.
Aye, to get
you can just be a silent shareholder, but there's nothing that they can do to take it off unless you sign them across to you, back over to them, or somebody buys them off you again, which is, again, it's a good kind of strategy to have, to start taking that. And almost, a lot of businesses that I do have equity in, with that's the strategy I would play. Like, we've worked out to a certain point, right? You can now buy back the shares if you want to buy back the shares, or if you're looking for other investors, you can do that once they are kind of growing and expanding to.
I always like to have that as part of my contract, my heads of terms is, in the case of if we were 50-50, how would we basically reach an amicable agreement? Like, what's the deal breaker? Like, who mediates? Is it a coach, an accountant or something? But also, if you ever feel that you want to sell equity or buy my equity back, that there's a means for doing that, so that it's like, I don't feel the relationship's there, this is how we'll resolve it. And I think it's quite a healthy thing to have in a contract, because it's like, don't feel forced as if you're stuck with me forever if it doesn't work out, and sometimes it doesn't. You can kind of do that. I'd be curious as well, like how intentional are you with you're building us up? So I know obviously you've got other types of investments, you've got property, you've got other things like that. How intentional are you with how you're constructing that portfolio? Is it a very reactive thing that you've kind of like, I know now you're really focused on it, but is there like kind of like a plan? Here's what I'm trying to build, or the types of company I want to take equity in?
So absolutely, it was reactive to a point. It was not. When I started taking equity in businesses, it really kind of came about when businesses didn't really have the money, and I thought, right, okay. But that kind of dipped my toe in the water a little bit with it, and then I kind of seen the benefits of it and thought, you know, I've got equity in, you know, a drinks company or whatever, you know, and then I'm like, actually that's nothing to do with marketing, but actually I've now got this vested interest in something else, and that's when it kind of whet my appetite a little bit more. And now it's then went, right, this is going to be my strategy, because one of the biggest things I think there is again, we've seen it there with the pandemic and COVID. You know, so many businesses suffered because they were, you know, all eggs in one basket. You know, they focused hospitality, they focused travel, they suffered. I don't want to really be like that as well, so I want to be risk adverse and take away from that. So I want to start trying to get equity in other businesses, and things that I'm quite passionate about and like as well. I'm not very much about. I do like money, but that's not what drives.
That's not your motivator.
That's not my motivator, and what drives me. What drives me is really like, you know, having fun and having a really good time in life and a really good journey in life. And I want to try and start taking equity in businesses, either in people that I believe in, where I can see their company go, you know, expand really, really quickly, or products and services that I actually like and I can kind of see grow as well. So that's where I kind of would like to see my equity go. And you know, as a business strategy, and you knows my 2022 strategies, expansion of marketing mavens, and that is going to be my main strategy, is going to be mainly taking over other marketing agencies that are looking to sell, and that will be my primary focus from probably, you know, June onwards is where I'm looking to do that. So it's funny. So it kind of just came about, but I also feel it's been my network of people, because I really believe you know you have that tribe of people and you lean on different people, and like, as you know you're in the same boat. We talk about it, but we've also got a network of other people we talk about as well. Out with that, as I kind of said in the last one, I've got a friend that works for a business, and the guy's selling the business. He's going to make £500 million. You know, he's a Glasgow boy. You know, it's a massive success story, you know, for the city of Glasgow. But I'm in with these circles now, and that's why I'm like, oh, this is quite interesting. And you're hearing the stories about, you know, the investors buying them over, and you know, one of the investors, like the finance director, and how they've added, you know, value into it. And then I'm thinking, well, you know, what about me? You know, I can add a lot of value by taking equity in other companies. You know, I can be definitely a silent shareholder, or I can come in and I can actually say, right, it's almost an exec director role, and it's actually like, this is what you should be doing with marketing, and lending my expertise in there. So that's how I kind of came about with it. I have had little dips of the tone as well with crowdfunding. I did crowdfunding probably before taking equity in businesses, but I wasn't putting a lot of money in. I was putting, you know, because they're trying to get, you know, 30,000-40,000, I'd be like £200.
Yeah,
you know, so you get a minimal amount of money, but I just didn't feel like it didn't warm my heart to be honest. Like, I didn't feel that it was great, because like, you don't know the people. You see the product and you like the product, but you don't really know the people. You don't really believe in the people, and I feel it's a lot better when you actually get to speak to them, see the whites of their eyes, see what they're trying to do with their business, and then actually go, I'd like to, help and take investment in a company and take equity in a company. And essentially then it helps me because, come to retirement age and I'm looking to, basically like get in a big super yacht.
Your super yacht.
No, I don't care about money, honestly.
Super yacht. Okay.
No, I don't. Have you ever watched that? Is it Over the? I can't remember. They're all in the below the deck. It's below the deck. And they're all in the. It's like this.
That's why you want to buy a yacht. You need to start watching that.
So, but these people, these people like they're like that. They're all looking for their tips because it's all the workers below the deck.
Oh, I think I've heard of this before.
But the people are giving them a like 30 grand tip, 20 grand tip. Just like, there you go. That's your tip. It's mad. It's just mad. But the people are just. I think it's like it's a sign where money goes to people's head too much, and they just treat people like crap, and that's not that's the bad side of money, anyway. So what about you? So yeah, I went off on a tangent there about below the deck.
I'm thinking about yours now.
Yeah. So now what, one of the things I was probably going to ask, and it's something that I think the listeners will be looking to, how do you find companies that want to get investment?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's how you put yourself out there. So when I'm looking for it, I'm trying to basically advertise that I'm open to that. So I'm quite strategic in my thinking. I'm quite methodical about, right, here's my plan, here's what I want to do. And I try not to be overreaching in the sense of I'm trying to achieve 100 businesses with investment in this year. But I will try and build my portfolio in an intentional way. So because of that, I'm looking for certain types of businesses. So I've kind of structured my portfolio very much like a hedge fund. As much as a lot of people might not be mega interested in it, I'm fascinated by hedge funds because they're very risk averse. Their entire existence is to mitigate and manage risk. And you spoke about it when we spoke about acquisitions before, in the sense of how do you conduct that risk assessment? How do you look at a business and see, is this worthwhile investing in? And I think if you're going to, let's say, hyper deploy into one area, you almost need to look at it, if that part of my portfolio wasn't yielding a profit, well, where would I get my income from then? And I think that kind of keeps you honest in the sense of where do my investments need to be. The other thing is, and I've stole all of this, but from a guy called Kevin O'Leary, that's one of the Shark Tank guys. He says don't own any more than 5% in any one area, and I try to think of the businesses in the same way. So because I know,
so if you were in hospitality, don't own 5%.
So you wouldn't have more than 5% in that one area. So for you, the temptation might be to have loads of marketing agencies. The temptation for me, loads of software houses. Some people are addicted to property, and it's property, and you're like, so what's your portfolio? And it's 100% Bitcoin, 100% property, and you're thinking that's really, really dangerous. Mm-hmm. Even within those asset classes, it's well, how much is residential property, how much is commercial? Is it all single family homes, or have you got HMOs? So you're really trying to cut the asset up into as little risk as you can, so that even if it doesn't perform as well, then it's kind of good. But to kind of look at that and jumping back from it a bit, when I'm looking for specific types of company, I'm looking for where can I kind of add my value. So when I'm looking at assets like that, I try to look at it in the sense of kind of similar to dating. So you kind of have to put out there that you are open to these type of opportunities. So it's kind of on LinkedIn you can put I'm open for new opportunities or work. I kind of intentionally done that where I said shareholder various, and I wrote in the description the type of assets that I'm looking for, either full or part acquisition, passive or active investor. I then also added myself to different networks. So there's venture capital networks you can add yourself in as an investor or a company. I added myself as both because I wanted to see what both sides of the fence were like. And that's interesting because you'll start to see a lot of businesses that are sharing, here's how we model, here's our business plan.
It's a great strategy because you're learning both sides.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of my mindset of it. I wouldn't say I was a particularly fast learner, so when I read something or I see something, I can get the general principle of how it works, but I like to go deep on something. So I like to well, how does it work for them, or how does their interface look and what's different about it, and how long does it take for an investor to reply, what do they reply with? Because if you're trying to acquire and learn a skill, I kind of need to know what other people do. Sometimes it's an advantage, and you'll know that yourself. Like when I came into the agency world, I wasn't super familiar with how a lot of agencies operate, having never worked in one, because I came from like the software side. So everybody was like, "Oh, you're really unusual the way you think, and it's really different, and it's refreshing." And I'm thinking, well, it's bloody got to be, because I don't know how it actually works the other way. So I can't mimic something I don't know how it works. But the other thing is, as an investor, you don't want to come across as somebody that doesn't know what they're looking for, or why are these investors asking these 3 or 4 questions? So I think it is good to court both sides of it, and kind of in a way you're a broker, like you're both a buyer and a seller, just by the sheer nature of you own businesses. Even if you bought a business today, you might want to sell it in 3 years' time. So does it not make sense to learn both sides? But that's what I've kind of been doing, is through my own network I've been putting out there, like, look, I am open to acquisitions. I actually ask people, have you ever been offered to buy a company? That's one of my new questions, and a lot of them are like, yeah, I got offered that last year. Interesting, like, what did you do about that? I didn't really know what to do about it. I was like, so the next time that comes about, I'd love to have a conversation with you about how I could help you grow through acquisition. So some of these kind of clients, I've taken them on as coaching clients, which that's not what my main kind of bag is. But what I'm thinking is I can kind of help people really acquire and grow, and then I can grow alongside them in the sense of, if they acquire something and they learn that technique that I'm using, they will always look back and say the reason we put on this scale was because we learnt this skill from John. So I'm trying to kind of like immerse myself into that. I'm also looking at my previous successes, so I'm looking at, well, where did those people come from? Where do they generally hang out? So I've identified for myself a market in incubators. I think there's a lot of companies that are either in fintech or different types of technology incubators internationally that would be a great fit for me. And a lot of them, and it's not meant as a like to dismiss like their achievement, but a lot of them, it's like they lack the commerciality, and if they were honest with themselves, they know that. Like they've got a great idea, or they wouldn't be like kind of remortgaging their house and sacrificing and working really hard. But sometimes you find people that have worked maybe 5-6 years and they've worked bloody hard and they've invested what they can to get to where they've got to, but they just don't have the, I'm not sure how you sell this, how do you get that, that kind of way. It's like similar to, let's say if I know how to tender and you didn't or something, even just by me coming in and saying, look, I'll deal with that part of your business for you, and you're like, holy shit, John put on like £600,000 onto our like turnover with just that one thing. So you would start to see it as valuable, because you're thinking, right, I can't necessarily do that, it would take too long to acquire that skill. So that's what I've kind of been putting out there to attract them towards me, and it's worked really well, because now you've got it in people's heads where when they think about, oh, this person's offered me equity or to buy them, I can turn to John and we can kind of negotiate this deal together, or it might be a case that he buys it and then he cuts me into the deal. There's different ways to do it, so that's one of the things I've done.
It's really interesting the way that you do it, because it's something that I'm not 100% experienced in. As I said, it kind of, I was reactive to it. It kind of came about, well, apart from the Kickstarter kind of crowdfunding thing, I basically just, it happened because somebody asked me to take equity in their company. So I don't really, now going into it and having it as a full strategy, that's one of the things that I'm planning to do, is like learn everything about it, get in touch with people and almost kind of get mentors, not mentors, but just spending time with people that have done it.
How did they do it?
And how did they do it? And really learning the ins and outs. How do you do due diligence within a company? Because we talked about that earlier, is about the Dragon's Den one. Yes, when they win in Dragon's Den, that's not the deal done. They then go in and
start to go through
show
all the
me your books, the details of it. I need to get to that, and again, I've not done my 10,000 hours and doing that, so I need to learn, or I just, as we've kind of talked about, we just need to get the expert. I need to look to get experts in to help me do that. But it's really interesting. I'm in marketing. You really, if you're looking to try and attract more people, you have to market yourself. You have to market yourself in a certain way, and it seems like it's the exact same way. If you're looking to take equity in businesses, you need to market yourself that
you're
you
on the
take
market
equity.
to do that.
You take equity in businesses. You need to put yourself into these micro communities. If it's an online community like a database or a website, you need to get yourself in there, start mingling with these people to do it. So it makes 100%.
It's kind of like, I'll look at it in the sense of it's kind of just like another persona. I mean, you'll understand that way more than me anyway, but if you think about it, what is it they're looking for? So they've got like a hope and a dream, and then they want to reach out to somebody to achieve that dream. So one way of doing that is they commission a website. Another way you can do that is it's like, well, I need this money to buy this building, or there's absolutely amazing stories, and like when you meet people that invest in businesses, there's a lot of cleverness as to how they acquired the equity in the first place. I would try to work out a way I can tell this story without actually revealing what it was, but let's just say that it was a brewery. It wasn't a brewery, but we'll say it's a brewery. And the person was literally looking for premises, so that was their big issue.
Yeah.
And the investor basically clocking this was like, well, I have lots of different businesses, potentially I could help you with premises, what do you need? So they basically wrote a spec of what they need. Here's what I need rent-wise, and they'd have to have this amount of running water and this and this and this. So they could basically give the spec. Now all that person done was they gave that to a property management company and said, do you have anything within your commercial portfolio that looks like this? Mm-hmm. Then he asked hotels and he asked other businesses. So eventually finds a piece of property that's like that, and he's like, how much is this to rent? And the guy's like, oh, it's like £2,000 per month. So he basically turns around to the brewery and says, look, I can get you these premises that I've got a lease on. Would that work for you? Like, say we do 50-50 in the equity, I'll give you access to my premises and you can just base it for there. So they're like, yeah, this is great. So for him doing a leasehold agreement in his name, he took 50% equity, and I'm like, mind blowing, like this is just unreal, like to even achieve that. But it's because they think about it differently. They're looking for like, what is the problem? Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't have traditionally looked at it that way. I would have thought like, no, you need to buy it, or you need to, work out some other way of showing value. Like the obvious one is to trade in your skill into what they do, and I do that as well.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, they might have other problems, like which is literally that guy's the premise.
Yeah.
But because you're kind of not in the business all the time, you kind of see it in the sense of like, well, could they not just? So like probably what you would do and I would do in the olden world is you would actually go, well, could you not just do this? Whereas if you actually kind of keep your powder dry on that and say, well, I could solve that problem for you, and then you do the deal, and then that's your part of the deal, and it's like that person's delighted, mm-hmm. and you're like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like basically for him writing down a document on a lease and doing a wee bit of kind of search, and he's took 50% equity in a brewery, which is not a brewery, but you know what I mean? It's the principle of what it is, and I thought that's mind blowing. And every one of these guys I've met that do acquisitions, that's exactly the kind of stories they've got. And you're thinking, this is really clever. There's a lot of cleverness to how this stuff gets structured up. Mm-hmm. But the only reason they can do that is because they're constantly reviewing deals. What is it you're looking for? What is the challenges in the business? How could I be of help to you? What are you looking for in this relationship? And if it turns out that it's like, I don't like you, or you don't see eye to eye, it's too much money, that's fine. You just say, look, part way, same way as you would with a client.
Yep.
Just, it doesn't work, let's move on to the next one.
And what I was going to say, so what skills do you think you need? Is a lot of kind of negotiation skills? Do you think negotiation is a big part of it? What would
I think negotiation skills are just a big thing in life. I think it's one of the best things I ever did was focus on that as a life skill. Mm-hmm. I think communication and negotiation are the two biggest things, whether it's business, personal life, and it applies to this as well. I think I do a lot of kind of coaching and consultancy work, and I think that's a major advantage of this because you're a natural like problem solver. Like our job is problem solving. So I've got this problem, let's say it's an app, and I want to take card payments like through people's phones because that's an expectation. That's just a problem. So you break it down and you say, right, this. However, what I've kind of come to realise is if you reposition that and instead of saying, I could do that for you, it'll take 10 hours. Mm-hmm. If you can say, right, well, I could solve that problem for you along with some of these other problems, what would that be worth to you? And like, would it make sense for me to ongoingly look at some of that kind of stuff? What is my kind of input? So I think that's like being a problem solver is a big thing, I think, for it, the way I do it anyway. So I think either you have to be very wealthy, so you've got money,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore you can take punts on things, and some of them will work and some of them won't. I much prefer to be at something I can see I can offer value to. And I was talking to others about this the other day. Like, the whole reason why I don't really engage in the stock market is because I don't feel I have any control over what plus or minus. Whereas if you invest in a business, you know yourself, you can kind of go, well, I know what I'm probably capable of with marketing. I know we could probably do this. I know we could do that. They're not doing any of this kind of stuff. They're not claiming R&D. They're not, like, there's lots of things I could add to the table for day one that would probably make me immensely valuable to them as an investor. So you know that going in. Whereas imagine going into it and you're thinking, oh God, I don't really know how I would offer value to them. So I think it's really knowing your own worth, like what is your value, what you're strong at, and where is the deficit. So if you're partnering with people where you realise, like, for you it might look like they're not particularly strong at marketing, and that's something that's really unique, and it's something that you've got in spades that a lot of people don't have. So if you could then bring that to the table and say, well look, I know I could take us to market, and I could get us like a bigger number. I've got these skills or that skills, even the other businesses you own, so you've got a bigger network, maybe a kind of larger kind of client network because of what you do that could be a benefit to that person. So I think negotiation definitely is there, communication, and I would say that just that natural problem solver ability is massively key for this.
Yeah. And have you ever came across businesses, well, like, I'm just, something that popped into my head there was like, I have a friend that was like a salesperson, and when he started the job, they actually gave him stock of the company. So they give him a percentage of the company, but they're hitting in, like, the company's hitting in like the stock market, so he ends up like a year, you know, if the business does well, he ends up with a
amazing.
massive amount of money. You know, so even as an employee, you know, there's, you know, taking stock is part of your salary.
Aye, exactly. You get a lot of them do share options. So like I've got friends that work at Facebook, and that's what happened to them when their stocks matured. They basically got like massive payouts. So it's like people were like hanging about all the developers going, would you like a Lamborghini Aventador? Would you like a this? Would you like a that? You know, coming back to your yacht kind of comment. Because they knew that these people were going to come into that. So if you were a developer that started within a certain time, they knew this was part of your package. So not surprisingly, all these guys that sell real estate and nice cars, nice houses, they started like looking at them on LinkedIn and stuff and saying, oh, if you'd like a Lamborghini, I could do you a great deal, and understand that you might be like, you know, maturing some of your, and that's great. Whereas other ones would have looked at it and thought, when that matures, I'll keep my stock because it'll be more valuable, or I'll maybe sell some of it. So yeah, definitely you can get involved in it as an employee as well. Doesn't need to be a business owner.
It's interesting. So I honestly loved this episode, to be honest, John. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. Like, really kind of get into the details of it, and I think the listeners will love it as well. Particularly because they're probably not aware of what they can do.
What you can do with it.
You know, how you go about like taking investment in businesses where actually having millions and millions and millions of pounds and thousands of pounds. So what do you think what your business builder is for today?
So business builder for me would be, I think, putting yourself out there that you're available for investments. If you're even partly interested in this, make sure that people can understand very easily that you are open to that. Do you put it on an email signature? Do you put it on your LinkedIn? Do you communicate to your clients? Do you bring it up in one-to-ones? I kind of tend to think of things like a ratio. So I've got 80% of my time is spent in Hybrid Anchor, 20% of my time is spent on this. So loosely speaking, a day a week is spent on this kind of activity, 4 days is spent on the main business. And I think by focusing like a ratio, it puts a bit of intentionality. Like, well, what are you doing? So who you're reaching out to, who you're having dinners with, who you're having conversations with. And it just makes sure that it gets out there eventually, and then people know that, well, if I wanted to exit my company, I know I could speak to Mark. I know that would be something of interest to him. That would be my builder.
I think my business builder is quite. I think the riskiest thing is to put all your eggs in one basket, as I kind of talked about before. I think it's important that you start trying to, you know, look for equity in other businesses, and you know what we're trying to do here is provide you guys with value so that you can learn a little bit more. I know this is only like a 30-minute slot, but whets your appetite, feel free to reach out to us to find out a little bit more about our experience on it. Or, if you've got other resources and things like that you've been looking to, feel free to share it with us, because we're not the super duper experts. We will be one day, but we're not there yet. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this episode and again the whole series. So thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, hit that subscribe button and make sure that if you're on social media, you like and share, tell all your friends about us, and we'll all join the community and all become business belters. So without further ado, it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye for now.
Thank you.
See you guys.